You can't replace part of the brain. Like, you
treat them the same.
A source of truth for the MedTech industry.
Coexists with the province.
Robot understands things automatically.
Number one show in the MedTech industry.
So Stryker got ahead of that and changed in the 90s, built $1 billion company that held up high. A lot of things.
State of MedTech with your host, Omar and Khateeb.
What's going on, you med rep savages? And today's episode, we're going to talk about something that's a little controversial, which is discipline is not enough to be successful. I know that we hear all these sayings, discipline equals freedom. You need discipline to succeed, discipline. And I 100% agree, but it's not enough. There's one other thing that you need. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But real quick, if you're a medical sales rep, you're looking to elevate your game, you're ready to go up a level to really understand persuasion, to know how to sell to a prospect without being there in person, which is what a lot of companies want these days. You guys are getting your tax returns this year. Some of you are going to get $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Do not go and blow that money on garbage. Okay, don't go buy stuff. Invest back in yourself into your learning. When was the last time you invested in yourself? If you don't like the money that you're making today, if you don't like your current career and everything, the only person you have to blame is the person you see in the mirror, which is yourself. So with that being said, I want you to go to digitalmedicalsales.com. You got to type in www.digitalmedicalsales.com. This is my program, the Medical Sales Network Effects program. We've had hundreds of reps go through it. We've even had CEOs and VPs go through it. And this course, which is, self-paced, so you can learn on your own time. And of course, always go back and review the videos. There's over 50 videos in that library on persuasion, how to sell digitally, how to use LinkedIn to brand yourself, to frame things, to do outreach, even email tactics, right? Plus, we put you in a private group with a lot of other high-performing reps, plus some CEOs and VPs, where you can interact with people and network. A lot of people get hired and find new exciting jobs from there. And even myself, since I work with emerging medtech companies who always ask me if I can recommend people out of my program, that's a place where I'm able to send job posting and even make recommendations. And then the last thing is that this is a great way to get closer to me. All of my students who are in that program, I go out of my way to either have group coaching calls with them, one-on-one calls with them, whatever I got to do to help them. So take advantage of it, invest yourself, go to www.digitalmedicalsales.com and then use the special code, because you can only get this code on this episode, President's Club Podcast. President's Club Podcast. Okay. And that's going to give you $1,000 off. $1,400 is probably going to be the best investment that you're going to make in a long time. So I hope to see you in there. So let's get to today's topic. So discipline is very important. Okay. The reason why is that if you look at the tiers of getting things done, the very lowest tier, in my opinion, is motivation, right? And the reason why is because you can be really motivated today, right? But motivation changes, right? So let's look at exercising. You can be motivated to exercise, but then one day you wake up a little late. Maybe one day you're just not in the mood. Right? Your motivation changes. You don't go work out. Okay. The next step above that is discipline. Okay. Now, discipline is important because discipline means doing the things that you hate just like you love them. Mike Tyson actually said that on a Joe Rogan episode, which is discipline is doing the things that you hate, but doing it like you. But a lot of times that's not enough either. And this is where willpower comes into play. I was listening to an episode of Dr. Andrew Huberman. He was having a conversation with David Goggins. In the world of neuroscience, there hasn't been a whole lot of publications that come out in the field of like mindset and mentality and everything. And this one paper came out, which I'll share in a moment, called "The Tenacious Brain: How the Anterior Mid-Cingulate Contributes to Achieving Goals." It was written by Alexander Tortulu, Joseph Adriano, Bradford Dickerson, and Lisa Feldman Barrett. Some very interesting findings. But first, I want to show you guys a clip. This is a clip from an old boxing match where Teddy Atlas, one of the world famous boxing managers and coaches, he coached Tyson, was in the corner of Michael Moorer. Michael Moorer was fighting then heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield. And so Teddy Atlas gives him this speech that changes the trajectory of that match, and then Michael Moorer wins to become heavyweight champion. Let me pull that up real quick. Here we go. So that when I saw that clip, that really struck a tone with me, because he kept saying to Michael Moorer, like, you're lying to yourself and you're going to cry tomorrow. Do you want to cry tomorrow? And what I think about, whether it's entrepreneurship or sales, every day we have stuff to do and we have to push through. And granted, like, for example, I'm very disciplined, but sometimes you need willpower to really push it to the next level. And you have two choices. You have two choices in life. And this is an episode. This episode is not really about medical sales. This episode is really about life. You have two choices in life. Either you can cry today from the pain of discipline, the pain of pulling that willpower and forcing yourself, pushing yourself to do the things you got to do to get things done, right? Doing things that you don't want to do, or you can cry tomorrow from the pain of regret. Okay, let me jump over and share with you that study, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about the details of this. Okay, so here's that study on PubMed, or looking at it from the NIH database. Okay, so tenacity, which is persistence in the face of a challenge, has received increasing attention, particularly because it contributes to better academic achievement, career opportunities, and health outcomes. We review evidence from non-human primate neuroanatomy and structural and functional neuroimaging in humans, suggesting that the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC, is an important network hub. Okay, it's a network hub in the brain that performs the cost-benefit computations necessary for tenacity. Specifically, we propose that its position as a structural and functional hub allows the AMCC to integrate the signals from diverse brain systems to predict energy requirements that are needed for attention allocation, encoding for new information, and physical movement, all in the service of goal attainment. We review and integrate research findings from the studies of the attention, reward, memory, affect, multimodal sensory integration, and motor control to support this hypothesis. We close by discussing the implications of our framework. So what exactly did they find? And this is the part that's really interesting. I want you to imagine this. Okay, imagine that this part of your brain essentially thrives on challenges. It grows with discipline, and it could be the secret to mental sharpness in your older age. Okay, so these studies, okay, which again I discovered it through this conversation Dr. Huberman had with former Navy SEAL David Goggins. Many of you know him from his great book, Can't Hurt Me. And so this isn't just any little brain area, right? It's a hub, okay? And it's been shown to be larger in individuals who consistently push their limits, face challenges head on, and force themselves to do things that they don't want, okay? So this brings us to a very critical distinction, okay? The difference between apathy and tenacity, okay? So in a world where motivation can sometimes be harder to muster, it turns out that your capacity for tenacity, that's different than motivation, for pushing through despite the odds, might be a key factor to preventing age-related brain decline. And this is what this research shows, that they call them super-agers, okay, who are older individuals who maintain the cognitive capabilities of much younger people. They have a much more robust anterior mid-cingulate cortex, okay? And so a great example of this is David Goggins, who transformed himself into a Navy SEAL from being overweight, depressed, etc., literally through sheer willpower. He's nothing special. He's actually below average in his own terms, right? And he continues to do that constantly, okay? And so how do you train this part of the brain? It sounds like something out of a motivational book, but the answer is to do the things we least want to do, okay? You have to embrace challenges. You have to push through pain, okay? And the anterior mid-cingulate cortex doesn't just consider the reward, but also weighs it against the effort required. And so when you choose the path of most resistance, this part of the brain actually grows. So for example, I have to find new things. So many of you know that I like to do ice baths, okay? Now, I've gotten to a point that I've been doing, I've been doing ice baths before this was even popular. I started doing this back in 2014, okay? But now it's gotten to a point where it is something hard for me to do, but it's not that hard. And so it doesn't exercise that part of my brain as much. That's why you have to find new things to do, new challenges, things that are really make you uncomfortable, that you really have to push through and use willpower. A great example of this, I'll give you a great example from my personal life, which is as an entrepreneur, I run a company. I have a few people help me. I have a great creative director, Raheem, who puts together these amazing podcasts and does a great job on the creative side. But we need a system, right? And to grow my company, I need to develop systems and SOPs, systems of procedures and processes. And I've always been putting it off. I just don't like doing it. There's something about it I just really don't like. And so I realized that the things that I least like, I have to go after them. right? And as I'm going after them, I really, really don't want it. Okay. What's really compelling about this research is that this part of the brain, it's not just a source of willpower, but it's part of our will to live, right? Which is why that it grows over time if you constantly exercise. This is not about finding life hacks or shortcuts. It's about doing the work day in and day out. I always tell you guys this: there ain't no money in easy things anymore. There's no money in easy things. So if you look at my business has grown significantly over the last couple of years. Why? Every year, I ask myself two questions. Number one is, what do I do that is radically different than what I did last year? You can't go to the next level in life or business just by doing what you did yesterday, but working harder and more efficiently. You have to do radically different things. And when you do radically different things, the brain hates change and it's very uncomfortable. You hate it. That's number one. Okay. The second thing I ask myself every year is, in order to make more money, you have to solve bigger, more complex problems. So, in my first year, my problem was teaching, using my course and teaching reps how to use social media to sell, right? That's a pretty big problem. What's a more expensive problem? A more expensive problem is helping a company who has no sales force find not only customers, but early adopters who can be transformed into KOLs. That is extremely complicated, extremely difficult, right? And thus, that helped grow my revenue significantly because I'm solving a problem. I might be the only person in planet Earth that's just trying to solve this problem and doing it successfully. And it's extremely hard, right? Despite how much I've done. And every week when I'm trying to work with teams and everything to do this, there's a lot of parts of it that I don't like. Very much like you, I still have to do cold calls. I have to do outreaches to surgeons. I have to get on, I have to deal with tech. The other day I had a text message from a surgeon who just out of the blue, who had a bad day. And he's just like, I'm going to block you. Right. So those things are in the back of my brain when I go to the next surgeon, and it's giving me resistance, right? Because I just don't want to do it. But you have to find willpower to push through. Okay. The journey to understanding the brain is always full of surprises. And the story of the AMCC, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, is a reminder that our potential for resilience, for tenacity, for growth is there. And whether you're facing down something like physical challenges, right, like exercise, etc., mental hurdles, everyday trials in life, the capacity for super aging, right? And keep this in mind. Always remember that what you're doing today, you're taking care of your future self, right? So if you're, for the career, for myself, the life that I have today, the company, all these different things is great. And the reason why is because the past version of me did something in the past to set me up for success today. And I always have to think about myself 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, right? If you look at my library, I have books that I'm not going to be reading for a long time, but I bought them for the future version of myself, right? I have investment accounts where, as much as I want to spend certain money and everything, I force myself to put money into my investments constantly, right? Because I have to think about my future self. So it's the same thing with you in terms of your mental and physical health, which is, what things are you doing today to set you up for longevity and success later on in life? So not only will this help you in your career, which is developing tenacity and willpower, right, alongside discipline, it also helps you with super aging, so that as you get older, you protect yourself from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And it's very, very easy to put these things off until one day you realize it's too late, And so my final sort of question to you: what was the last time you did something really hard that you really did not want to do? Okay. And I'm not talking about your current job. You got to go prospect, that's fine. But as an example, when was the last time I'm just throwing this out there, use, let's say, your Instagram account to cold DM a surgeon, right? When was the last time you did it? When was the last time you publicly put out a post, right, that made you uncomfortable, but you did it anyway? When was the last time you committed to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to wake up every morning, I'm going to take a cold shower, and I'm going to do 100 push-ups. And you did it no matter what. Even on days you really didn't feel like it, you felt tired, you felt sick, you did it, right? Learn to do the things you hate like you love them, right? And then at some point, you start to find ways to love them while you're doing it. And then you have to find new things. Because again, that part of the brain has to constantly be exercised. So for me, yeah, ice cold baths are great, But I've gotten to a point where like I already know that I'm doing something good for myself. I got to find something new. I got to find something different that I'm really not looking forward to doing. And this is, I think, the key to life, which is the key to staying young, is finding always new challenges to exercise the brain. The other day, I'll be releasing this episode. I had Chris Dewey. Chris Dewey was one of the founders of Mako and one of the investors who invested in Procept Biorobotics, Shockwave Medical, Oris, right? So this guy's invested in nothing but amazing companies. And prior to his life in MedTech, he was the CEO of Canon Films. Okay. And so part of his success, he always talked about the ideas and curiosity. He's constantly challenging himself with completely new business models and ideas and forcing himself to do the due diligence to figure out, does this work, rather than just constantly investing in the current things that he's used to, right? And so and he's going to be turning 80 this year. And when I talked to him, I told him, I said, Chris, I was like, I thought you were in your 60s. You don't look like you're 80 years old. You don't act like you're 80 years old. And I think if we actually did a MRI on this guy, his anterior mid-cingulate cortex is probably huge because he's constantly using willpower and tenacity to do things that he's not used to doing, that he may not even like. Keep that in mind. Let me know what you guys think about this episode. Comment below in Spotify. Leave a comment on YouTube. And if you haven't already, if you love this show, look, do me a favor. Share this with somebody. Share this with your team. What I recommend is that with these episodes, share this with somebody you're close with, one of your teammates, one of your colleagues, and then have a discussion about it. Dive deeper into this. This is how people get better. That's why we have a great community on Instagram with All Hail Medical Sales, is because of these kind of discussions. So that being said, I'm your host, Omar Khateeb. I will see you all next time. And real quick shout out, if you're going to be in LA, I'm going to be at the Vive conference. It's a big health tech conference. I'll be there Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. It's at the LA Convention Center. If you're around that area, hey, hit me up. Come by and say hi, okay? We'll see you all next time.
Thank you for enjoying another epic episode of The State of MedTech. If you're feeling inspired and love this episode, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss an episode. And be sure to give us 5 stars and write a short review because that helps more people discover this amazing community of ours. If you're a company who has an executive that you'd like to be on the show, or perhaps you want to sponsor one of the episodes, shoot us an email at hello@khateebandco.com. Take care, and we'll see you next time.